Join us on the last bus home.
Yeah, literally, like the average man's elbow is about the limit. It's despite what some people claim, it's not really that big. Right, we've got another request this time.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've got Rob of the Sharks, another Sharks family member, asking for this particular topic, which is the Eastern Airlines Flight 401 hauntings. Quite a popular one, quite a famous one. So I've got all I can for that, and then we've got a few additional airline ghost stories for you.
Nice. Spooky Airlines.
Spooky Airlines, not ghost aeroplanes. Like, there's been some RAF bombers seen landing in this field. None of that. This is ghosts on planes, like snakes. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yeah. There's a severe lack of rectoplasm, but yeah. But once again, zero facts are offered on this particular episode.
It'll be an interesting one to cover as far as residual energy goes, because it's like it's a moving house essentially, isn't it? Where spirits it's not going to be attracted to a certain location. Interesting one to ponder. And
they're subject to magnetism, and they fly over water, and we'll see how it goes. I won't dick around any longer. So, Eastern Airlines Flight 401, December 29th, 1972. The world was winding down for the year, but over Florida Everglades, a brand new Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, Eastern Airlines Flight 401, was making its final descent towards Miami. The plane was a marvel of its time, sleek and wide-bodied, a symbol of progress and possibility. On board were 176 souls, families, business travellers, crew, each with their own quiet hopes for the journey's end. But fate, as it so often does, had other plans. The flight was routine until the last approach. In the cockpit, Captain Bob Loft, First Officer Bert Stockstill, and Flight Engineer Don Repo were focused on a small, stubborn problem, a landing gear indicator light that refused to glow green. Just a bulb, just a flicker of uncertainty in the instrument panel. They cycled the gear, checked the systems, sent Repo below the deck to peer through a tiny porthole. All the while, the autopilot, meant to hold them steady at 2,000 feet, was quietly disengaged, unnoticed in the flurry of troubleshooting. Outside, the Everglades stretched out, black and endless. Inside, the crew's attention narrowed to that one unlit bulb. The descent was so gradual, so imperceptible, that no one felt the fall until it was too late. "Hey, what's happening here?" Captain Loft's last words caught on the cockpit recorder. They hang in the air like a question that can never be answered. Seconds later, the TriStar struck the swamp at 227 miles per hour, tearing through sawgrass and water, scattering wreckage and lives across the night.
Also not the type of thing you're going to want on your tombstone. Hey, what happened here, in speech marks.
True. And nor is that a crash you want to survive, to be honest, in the Everglades. Because I don't think it'll be long before those street crocs come on with their biker cut shaped scales. They come through and get you. Yeah.
And if the crocs don't get you, you're going to end up eating your mate anyway.
Actually, I'd be surprised if crocs got you in the Everglades. You're more likely to be alligators. And invasive snake. And the skunk ape.
Either way, you're getting eaten.
Oh, one way or another, you're not going home.
Nope.
That's all there is to it. So, 101 people died. 75 survived. Many pulled from the mud and water by rescuers who braved the darkness and the cold. The Everglades, silent witness to the disaster, kept its secrets, but not all of them. In the aftermath, investigators combed through the wreckage, piecing together the story from twisted metal and blackened debris. The cause was clear: human error. A moment's distraction, a chain of small mistakes that led to catastrophe. The aviation world learned hard lessons about cockpit resource management, about the dangers of tunnel vision. Procedures changed, checklists grew longer, but the scars remained, etched into the memories of survivors and the families of the lost. And then, as the months passed, something stranger began to happen. Parts of the downed TriStar, avionics, galley equipment, even ovens were salvaged, refurbished, and quietly installed in other Eastern Airline L-1011s. In an industry where nothing is wasted, where every bolt and panel has value, this was standard practice. Metal is just metal after all. Or is it? It started as a murmur among the crew. A flight engineer, performing his pre-flight checks, was startled by a man in uniform, Second Officer Don Repo, who calmly told him, "You don't need to worry about the pre-flight. I've already done it." Repo, of course, had died in the crash. A flight attendant working in the galley of a TriStar fitted with salvaged parts saw a man in a flight engineer's uniform fixing an oven. When she asked the plane's actual engineer about it, he denied ever being there. Later, shown photographs, she identified Don Repo as the man she'd seen. On another flight, a stewardess opened an overhead locker and found herself staring into the face of Bob Loft. He vanished before her eyes. Passengers reported seeing a uniformed man sitting quietly in first class, pale and unresponsive, only to disappear when approached. Some recognised him as Loft, others as Repo. Sometimes the apparitions spoke, offering warnings, urging caution, or simply watching in silence. The story spread, whispered in break rooms and at layovers, growing with each retelling. Crew members, seasoned professionals, not prone to flights of fancy, swore by what they'd seen. Some described the apparitions as so lifelike, so solid, that they could not be dismissed as tricks of the mind. Others felt only a chill, sense of being watched, a presence just out of sight. There were patterns too. The sightings clustered around planes that had inherited parts from Flight 401. The ghosts, it seemed, were bound not to the sky or the swamp, but to the metal itself, as if memory could cling to steel, as if grief could be soldered into the bones of a machine. And always the apparitions brought warnings. "Watch out for fire on this plane," Repo was heard to say, his face reflected in the oven door. On that flight, an engine later failed and had to be shut down before it caught fire. Another time, Repo appeared in the electronics bay, urging a crew member to check a faulty circuit, averting perhaps another disaster. Eastern Airlines, for its part, refused to acknowledge the stories. Officially, there were no ghosts, no hauntings, no reason for concern. Employees were warned not to discuss the sightings, not to log them in official records. Whispered threats of dismissal kept many silent, but folklore, like water, finds its way through the smallest cracks. A 1974 issue of US Flight Safety Foundation newsletter even referenced the tales, noting that the reports were given by experienced and trustworthy pilots and crew. We consider them significant. Still, the company line held firm. Nothing to see here. Move along. Yet, behind closed doors, the stories persisted. Some say an exorcism was performed on one of the haunted planes. Others claim that the salvage parts were quietly removed from the fleet. The sightings ceased. The ghosts, it seemed, had lost their anchor. So what do we make of these tales? Are they the product of trauma, of collective grief seeking meaning in the aftermath of tragedy? Or is there something more? Something that lingers in the spaces between memory and metal, between the living and the dead? Folklore has always thrived in the aftermath of disaster. It's how we make sense of the senseless, how we bind wounds that logic cannot heal. The ghosts of Flight 401 are more than just apparitions. They are echoes of responsibility, of unfinished business, of a duty that transcends death. In the stories, Loft and Repo are not vengeful spirits, but guardians, watchful, protective, determined that no one else should share their fate. And maybe that's the heart of it. Maybe, in the end, ghosts are not just in the cabin, but in us, in our need to believe that tragedy can give rise to vigilance, that loss can become warning, that the dead can still care for the living. So that's Flight 401. I do have to disagree with one of the final sentences there. That Dom Repo, he gave out his share of warnings, bless him. But Bob Loft, I'm not entirely sure that he's that benevolent. What possible good is hiding in an overhead compartment where you shouldn't find anyone? You shouldn't expect to find anybody in one of them, and you open it and he's just there staring at you.
More of a prank.
Not helpful. Well, it's not even funny, Lee. It's not even funny.
So, you mentioned something at the start, and that's where I've drawn my conclusion on this one. Say this bird was made by Lockheed.
Lockheed, yes.
Lockheed, also big players in the UAP game. Now, I believe they've got a lot of crash retrievals. So they're already deep into the paranormal realm.
What, you think they've got alien ghosts?
No. It's all linked, brother. It's all linked.
All right.
So they've built this cage, shoved a load of people in it, and I reckon it's a little bit of an experiment. Said, what happens if this bird can go in between the dimensions and we start bringing in the spirit realm? I won't put it past Lockheed. Tricky buggers. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
They've hid the UFOs from us for years now. I'm not going to put it past them to send a plane up there with some, I don't know, some spooky shit going on for their experiments.
Oh, so you think they salvaged specific items, like they thought, well, that oven is particularly suspicious.
I'm not sure what they were playing at.
Okay.
Either way, we have entities on a plane. So I'm just reaching for the most logical answers. You know me, bro. You know me.
If you say logical answers as lowest hanging fruit, then yeah, I agree.
How else are we going to explain the spirits in the sky? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the doctor and the medics put it best. But no, I think just to get a plane flying, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand. So, but it's just, if salvaging is such a common practice in aeroplanes, because every bolt, like it says, and every metal panel is important. After such a big, massive crash across the Everglades, what's the point in salvaging an oven and a few metal panels? So there's more. There's more. I agree. There's a lot more unsaid there than said.
I was going to say, if you have some sort of paranormal occurrence on a plane, it's almost like the Men in Black come in to clear the area, retrieve the oven for whatever paranormal benefits it's got. Stinks of paranormal to me.
Of rectoplasm. Okay. Well, that was that. So now, that was the main part. That was for you, Rob. I hope it was everything you hoped it'd be. So now we're going to move on just to some tales, just general tales. Let's begin with disappearing children. So this is taken from a subreddit devoted to cabin crew. So it's anonymous. And it said, I work for a national airlines that mostly operated regional destinations. Mostly we use a single aisle plane. There are only two galleys, the front galley and the back galley. The front galley is close to the cockpit, thus it has installed CCTV where the pilots can monitor activities around the cockpit door. After 9/11, everything had to be installed for extra precaution. During a flight at cruising altitude, a captain called asking, why are you letting two little kids play in front of the cockpit door? The crew replied, there were no kids playing by the cockpit door. But captain insisted he could see them, a boy and a girl, playing in front of the door through the CCTV. I'm your boss, listen up. Or I'll just crash this mother right now. When the plane touched down, the crew got to the hotel and the captain pulled the senior crew member aside along with his first officer. And he asked if the crew really didn't see the two kids playing in front of the cockpit door. She maintained they didn't and said since the galley is so small anyway, less than 10 metres long, only from port side to door on the starboard side, she wouldn't have missed the two kids playing. Both pilots went blank and then said both had seen the kids playing right there beside both crew members on the CCTV.
Oof.
So it wasn't that the crew missed them, they were playing around them. Bit of extra shivers after that one, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Kids are creepy as shit anyway.
Oh, kid ghosts, yeah. Yeah.
Not about one.
Not cool.
No.
So the next one is the phantom voice from a website called Cabin Crew Wings. In Florida's night skies, a skilled pilot serving as a flight instructor remembers the most unsettling moment of his aviation journey. He was guiding a student through instrument meteorological conditions, IMC, on a routine flight in an SR-20 Cirrus when something strange happened. At 1,500 feet, that's 0.46 kilometres to those who use that. While approaching Orlando Executive Airport, the aircraft's radio tuned to 121.5 megahertz, the emergency frequency, began to broadcast an eerie voice. A young girl's voice quietly called, "Hello? Hello?" in a tone that sent chills through the cockpit. So, hello? Hello? That's even less scary. It just sends chills through me from the first and second-hand embarrassment. Later that night, he learned of a tragic incident. A young female student pilot had stolen an aircraft from a nearby flight school, and in an unauthorized and poorly controlled flight, she struggled to communicate over the emergency channel. her voice echoing hauntingly across the radio waves as she attempted to reach out. Tragically, she crashed later that night, and her eerie hello faded into the airwaves forever. For pilots who occasionally hear phantom transmissions on 121.5 megahertz, this incident serves as a reminder of the voices that may never be heard again. You see, I'm not getting the ghost part there. Didn't it just confirm that it was a woman who stole a plane, or had she stolen it at a different time?
Isn't 121.5 Yorkshire FM? I should have known that at the time. Yeah. Any kind of voice that comes over the speaker system in a plane is shit scary. I don't even care if it's to let us know that dinner's coming out. Every time that ding dings, I just think, shit, we're going down. And then it just turns out to be the food tray.
Or telling you to put your fags out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was that one. I'm going to assume there's a bit missing from that, and the incident had happened like years before or something. Because that
Possibly,
just sounded like it happened at the same time, which negates any haunting.
More contact, ghostly contact.
So we'll chalk that one up to possibly plums. Okay. Right, next one. A cargo pilot's chilling flight. This is from a website called Airhead. On a late night over Arizona, cargo pilot Mark McDonald set off alone on what he thought would be a standard journey, transporting cargo that included a deceased body in a body bag. Flying a Piper PA-31350 Chieftain, McDonald climbed to 3,000 feet, 0.91 kilometers for those who use that. When, about 10 minutes into the flight, the unexpected happened. The body suddenly let out a loud, groaning noise, and the corpse shifted as if it were waking up. McDonald, who had the body securely strapped down, was taken aback. Despite understanding that the likely cause was gas expansion from cabin pressure changes, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling of being alone in what seemed like an animated passenger. For the remainder of the 25-minute flight, McDonald felt an uncomfortable chill, casting nervous glances over his shoulder as he navigated the night sky. Although science explains the phenomenon as gases moving through the decomposing body, the experience left him haunted by the memory and eerie reminder of how the dead don't always rest peacefully in flight. Yeah, whether it gases or not, I'd be passing gas on my own if that happened.
See, cargo ships, they're a different beast. How many horror films you seen where they're transporting something they shouldn't be transporting, from like zombies, Dracula, Frankenstein? I've seen it all. You don't mess with a cargo ship.
Yeah. As soon as a truck carrying barrels hits like the swamps, they should just slow down to 20 and just take it easy.
This is it. It's not cool. It's where the dead go to chill, like Blackpool.
No, that's a bit different than dead.
Yeah. Purgatory, maybe.
Gather there for dancing on spice. So, yeah, that was the cargo pilot's chilling flight. So, we've got another one from Reddit. Where did he go? It's titled. But it starts, my friend Rob told me this. Oh, the amount of stories that start like that. Hey, Rob. So, my friend Rob told me this, that once when he was working a red-eye flight from SFO to JFK, I'm not sure what SFO is. I know what JFK is, but I'm not sure. But it doesn't
San Fran?
Possibly, I don't know, but it doesn't matter because it was going. I could just reword that. It was working a red-eye flight from A to B.
There you go.
And he remembers specifically greeting a man in his early 40s by the door who was well dressed and carrying a briefcase. He sat at the back of the plane near the bathrooms before departure. The FAs remembered counting 35 passengers who boarded the flight. Since it was a red-eye flight, most passengers slept through the flight and everything went smooth as usual. Before landing, they recounted the passengers, however, only to come up with 34. They thought the passenger was in the bathroom and actually checked, but it was empty. They eventually figured that it was the man who was seated in the rear of the plane. An FA even recounted having a conversation with him about the man's wife and 2 daughters. When they landed, they notify airport security, check the flights that checked in back at SFO, and their information only registered 34 people as well. So they only ever checked 34 people in.
Odd. Someone would be panicking, wouldn't they, at the airport?
I want to know why there's a bathroom on an aeroplane.
Yeah, that's odd.
There's a bath in a plane.
Maybe on like PDD Airlines or something, but I wouldn't expect it just on a normal.
Oh, you definitely want to rinse off on
Yeah,
that plane. Yeah.
slippy.
Eek. Right then. Okay, so we've got some short ones now. Some weird airline tales. So, first of all, a 72-year-old flight attendant. Yes, she really was 72.
What?
That's what it says. I am not
Holy.
questioning a 72-year-old's ability to welcome people to the plane.
Fair play. You think the cabin pressure would be too much for the old gal's hips?
Lee.
Just saying. I don't want to be doing that at 72. Don't know about you. I don't want to be doing that now.
It'd be nice to still be employed or employable.
I want to be retired, living my days out. I certainly don't want to be delivering TV dinners on an airplane to a bunch of British louts. Tell you that much.
You don't want to still be getting Mile High at 72.
Hell no. Put me out to pastures. Send me to Blackpool.
Yeah, I'd rather be taking some tablets and napping my way through the flight. But anyway, she was 72 and still rocking. And she always insisted that someday she would die on a layover in Italy. And one day she arrived at the terminal to work her usual flight to Rome, but she was sent home because the flight had been cancelled. And she passed away the very next day. You see, cancelled flights can ruin a flight attendant's plans too.
I guess.
But she would have died in Italy.
That kind of sucks. That she didn't get to live that out.
Does still working at 72, she kind of deserves to have something go her way, even if it is where she dies.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's how you look at it, I guess.
Well, you know, there are angles. You just got to pick the right one.
Definitely. Happy ending.
Kind of.
I like that.
Hmm.
Die doing what she loves. How's about that?
Well, there's nothing to say she enjoyed her job.
If you're still doing that shit at 72, good grief, I hope you enjoy your job.
Well, yeah. Anywho, next one. An especially bizarre story involves a young flight attendant whose family persuaded her to retire after the Lockerbie tragedy. It seems her mother had dreamed her daughter would die in an airplane disaster. The young woman became an accountant and after years of promotions went to work for a firm in New York. Her office was in the World Trade Center and she perished on 9/11.
Ooh.
Technically, an air disaster.
Definitely. Kind of brutal.
That's one of them genie sort of things, isn't it? Where what you wish for, you'll get it and it'll find some way of like making it not cool for you.
Yeah, some almost like a kind of messed up Darwin Award where it wasn't really your fault. just fate thought it'd mess with you in a spectacular way.
Yeah. That's what happens when you survive Final Destination. Tony Todd will get you in the end.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. When a pair of elderly newlyweds went to Europe for their honeymoon, the husband had a heart attack and died. The wife arranged to have his body brought back in a casket to their new home in Florida. She made the connecting flight, but the casket did not. In fact, the airline could not locate it for 5 days. And when the casket was finally found at the deceased's hometown airport, it was empty. One way or another, that man got cold feet.
Did you ever find it?
That's the end of the story.
Man.
So his casket returned to their hometown empty. That could just be, well, you know what these dodgy baggage throwers are like. You know, they could have just sold it. They could just as easily be ghouls as they can be thieves.
Organs sold.
Mm-hmm.
Get a fancy price.
A flight to Europe took off with a crew of 4 pilots and landed with only 3. During a break, one of the pilots wandered off and was never heard from again. The authorities took apart the plane, but have yet to solve the case. The authorities determined that the pilot had been suffering from depression and was behind on his alimony payments. They surmised he had slipped off the aeroplane disguised as a passenger in hopes of starting a new life. But there was no record of him going through customs or immigration, and his bags were still on board.
All the cameras in an airport. You think something
Depends when it happened, I suppose. If it was pre 9/11, he might have got away with it. But I reckon he might have done the old Dave Chappelle thing in Con Air and dropped out the landing gear.
That'd be pretty badass. It's one way to go.
Mm.
I think he slipped into a fancy design a la Face Off.
All right, okay.
And then became something, just started a new life as Gladys down at the beach. It's like, screw that old life.
72-year-old air hostess.
Yeah. That's my new thing, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think he got ate by a snake.
You reckon?
Mm-hmm. He went down to the cargo hold for a wee, because that's something the staff like to do, is pee on people's bags. And he got ate by a snake.
Nice.
That's what I think.
Could have possibly definitely happened.
Absolutely. And you always say that sometimes. Right. So we've got the guest passenger from a website called Simple Flying. A well-known airline in the UK, a cabin crew was approached by an elderly man in the galley. He asked her to pass a message to a woman on board the aircraft saying, "I'm okay." The cabin crew did so, and the lady seemed confused. She pulled a photo from her bag and asked if this person is who she'd spoken to, and the cabin crew confirmed that it was. And the lady replied, saying that her husband, who had died, was in fact being carried in the hold.
Damn. They do carry dead people in the hold.
Yeah, on purpose.
Even on, and I don't think it's just a rumour, even on commercial flights. They'll just throw dead people in there.
Well, no, I think what happened was, with the air pressure changes and gases in the decomposing body, he got up and wrote a note and gave it to a stewardess. And it's just science.
That's probably what could have happened.
Mm-hmm. That would be my story, and I'd stick to it.
Weekend at Bernie's type shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, the next one is descriptively named the 737. An old Boeing 737 working for a low-cost airline in the UK was well known for call bells going off in the middle of the night and strange shadows and sightings in the galley and flight deck. Galley cupboards would open and lavatories would flush randomly. There were strange smells and unexplained drops in temperature. The aircraft had been hijacked in its former history, and the airline captain was shot and killed on board. He loved his job and must have decided never to leave the 737. Eventually, the aircraft was retired from service and scrapped. Okay, so next one's called Heathrow Airport. And this comes from the website of USA Today. In the 1730s, there was a highwayman by the name of Dick Turpin. He would steal, torture, and kill, taking anything and everything he could. The scoundrel was finally caught and sentenced to death in 1739. But Turpin took matters into his own hands and jumped from the gallows with a noose around his neck, effectively killing himself. And for some reason, his ghost has reportedly taken a liking to the grounds of Heathrow Airport. Reports of sightings can be traced back to a time before the airport was even constructed. Descriptions of alleged sightings often include a black stallion, while many report seeing Turpin standing in the main terminal wearing period clothing, including a tricorn hat.
Imagine that. Imagine you're a person and you have a pretty crazy life, because that's why people know his name. And then you die and you're ready to say goodbye to the mortal realm and go up to heaven and live out your days. But instead you're stuck at Heathrow Airport. What a bitch.
Yeah, there's a message in there.
I don't know,
Well, my question is, a man from the 1730s is a ghost, appears at Heathrow Airport in modern times, and someone sees it and goes, oh, it's Dick Turpin. Could be frickin' anyone. It's not like Dick Turpin owned the only tricorn hat.
I'm picturing he wore tights, a little green suit, similar to Robin Hood.
Again, not the only man who owned all these things.
Yeah, that's a good point. And imagine what he thought when he saw the baggage conveyor belt. They had a shit.
I bet he got on it and rode it round a few times. Who wouldn't?
I would, if I was from the 1700s.
And you were may or may not have been Dick Turpin.
Bet he still didn't get through security. I bet they still buzzed him down.
Oh, yeah. See, if someone saw your ghost in 300 years' time, are they going to go, well, it's Donald Trump?
This is it.
Because he drove past Grimsby once.
I better not be chilling at a goddamn airport. Screw that.
So, I'm just saying, it's like I said in one of our previous episodes, it's like everyone has to jump to a famous person who the ghost is.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to our listeners, but I can't apply my usual logic to that one.
I don't know who can say what Dick looks like.
This is it. Old Terps.
Old Terps to his mates. Dick Terps.
To his wife.
Sounds like a shower gel from Ann Summers, doesn't it? Dick Terps.
The cream your doctor gives you. You've been a naughty boy.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a couple of stories here from actually a YouTube channel called Hong Kong Horror, who has quite a lot of decent horror stories on there. And there's a couple of flight attendant ones. So we'll go over to Hong Kong Horror and give him a sub.
Nice.
So she goes on to say, another incident that happened to me was during a flight from my home base to Indonesia. So this flight was one of the last few flights that had to be on before my probation period was over. To secure your probation, your life really depended on your performance, especially if they were in-flight supervisors. Before a flight, the crew members are given a list as to which passengers sit in a row, where they're seated, and what meals and beverages they've pre-ordered online. I had a few empty seats in my row, but I just wanted to bring to your attention that seat 17E was not booked. You can already see the pattern forming. For sure, the people in the economy class usually like swapping seats around and making themselves comfortable, but they usually do this after the meal's been served. This is because we know where they sit and we can serve them their meals. It was quite creepy, though. Exactly. It was quite creepy, though. The steward usually does a clicker head count before taking off, so we know the exact number of passengers to account for. We took off, the seatbelt sign was on, and the meal servers came around. The seat at 17E was occupied by a young lady. Her hair was a soft brown, her eyes were hollow, as if she was staring intently at something, and she never seemed to shift even the slightest bit throughout the entire flight. When I pushed the meal cart to her aisle and saw that she had no pre-booked meal, I asked her, "Madam, any snacks or drinks for you?" There was no reply. Well, it seemed pretty normal to me, since people who didn't want to spend money on flight meals or were just plain rude would treat us like that. A little dig there. I was back in the galley and my supervisor assigned me to clean the washroom of the economy class. The protocol before going in to clean is that you would have to knock and see if there's anyone inside. Sometimes they forget to lock the door, so this is what you should do before entering. The space was pretty cramped, so I pulled the door open and I stood at the side. I jumped because what really shocked me was the girl from 17E. She was inside the bathroom, staring at her own reflection in the mirror so intensely, and she didn't even bother locking the door. "Excuse me, madam, I'm so sorry, but are you still using the washroom?" I apologised. She turned her head towards me in a sort of slow motion, kind of like an owl, smiled slightly, and exited the washroom. What the heck? That was really creepy, I thought. When I headed back to the galley after cleaning up the washroom, I heard some of my crew members speaking in a hushed tongue. Basically, the passenger from 17E was standing in the middle of the aisles, sometimes staring at the passengers sleeping, and it really bothered them. There were about 3 passengers who complained to the other crew members, and my supervisor had to apologise and usher her back to her seat, to no avail. It was only when the pilot announced that we would have to buckle up for landing that she slowly shuffled her way back to 17E. We thought the woman was slightly mentally unsound, so we did not bother her any further. Before exiting the aircraft, we were helping some of the passengers to reach the overhead compartment and unload their baggage. As I was passing by rows 16 to 20, I saw no sign of the lady who was supposed to be there. I headed back to the galley to verify with the steward who did the head count, and the numbers were correct. So where did she go? Everybody else assumed that she headed back to her original seat, since 170 was supposed to be unoccupied. But I just couldn't get over it. A few of the other crew members and I were on standby at the entrance of the aircraft, thanking passengers for flying with us. As each passenger passed me, I started getting distracted by looking around the aircraft to catch sight of her. It still came off to me somewhat creepy that each of us acknowledged her presence on board, but didn't know where she went after the flight.
A lot of disappearances. A lot of people going missing on these flights.
But where do they go? Asked Mr. Wilson.
Again, I don't want to get too... I shouldn't go there. I really shouldn't, but just for the sake of pure logic...
Just go there, Lee. Go there. Do it. Treat yourself.
Right. Well, I'm not putting these down to spirits, not putting these down to ghosts. Similar to the that Malaysian Airlines that went missing. I don't know if that came up in your research. Well, I came across some videos where you see this go through a portal. Now, other people said it was CGI. Some people said it was AI. Not me. I saw something like that and I thought, this warrants further investigation. So I'm pretty convinced that there's some crazy shit going on up there dimensionally, and I think sometimes we can just fly through these spaces, similar to Bermuda Triangle, but, you know, they're all dotted around, and we just go. We go into another dimension, we disappear, and we're done for.
I did come across stories of planes landing in airports like 30 years later. Nobody had aged.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I didn't go through them because they weren't what I was looking for.
Well, yeah. I mean, that definitely happens. I've heard stories of that. And yeah, if you look at it logically, like I say, the only thing we can think to put this on is some sort of dimensional rift. But again, I'll leave that one to the eggheads. I'm just here for ghosts. You know what I'm saying?
True. But you're not going to see them anyway if they did go through whatever, because the Langoliers would have eaten them.
Something else I've got to worry about. Speaking of bad CGI.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of the Haunted Airlines episode. Interesting.
Did you come across any counts of airline poltergeists? You know, like the doors and the food bit slamming and really pissing off the air hostesses?
Well, there was that NBC one about there was the UKF flight that their toilets flushing and lights going off and on.
Yeah, a little bit like that, but I was kind of like thinking of more of like a, I suppose it depends how much you delve into it, but like a full-on haunting, you know, where straight up, where the entity presents itself a name and...
Well, no, these poltergeists, you know, like we say, they're the energy of teenagers and it builds over time. I don't think it builds and comes to a crescendo during a flight. This happens over weeks.
We've had a pretty full range. No truly malicious entities. No, like, you know, there's a demon on board, a possession on board. Now, right, give me all the hauntings you want, give me all the ghosts you want, give me all the poltergeists you want. Just don't put me on a plane with someone who's possessed, because that's where I draw the line.
I don't think you're going to get that, because even if you're acting slightly tipsy in the queue for a plane, you're getting told you're not getting on the flight. So if you're possessed, I'm pretty sure they're not going to let you on.
Well, Satan's tricky.
You know, if you're crab walking backwards and stuff, they're just going to say, no, you're not getting
You try crab walking through security, you reckon they're going to pull you aside?
Exactly. they might notice, yeah.
Excuse me, need a word. And you're like that. Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Now, there's no need for that. You're not getting on this plane. You've had enough.
Class.
Because they get a lot of that on the Ibiza flights.
Oh, yeah. True.
But yeah, anyway, but when it comes down to it, it doesn't put me off flying. I think, if anything, airline ghosts are benevolent, unless you're Bob Loft and you're hiding in an overhead compartment like a dick.
Yeah,
that's
a little trick
not
there.
On.
Yeah.
Even if just a person did it for laughs, it's not funny.
I agree with you,
I
mate.
need to be finding someone contorted and curled up in a little cupboard where I'm trying to put my bag. You know?
Yep. Ghosts don't scare me on a plane. People do.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, mate. I will catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.